All right, it's been a while since we played around with this guy, the Star Wars build. I was waiting on some 3D printed stuff to come in from my friend AJ. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna continue on with this madness. I don't think there's anything else I'm actually waiting on to complete this build now that I think about it. So yeah, let's see how far we can get today. I'm thinking this video, maybe one more will be what I need to complete it. The very last video is gonna be all the custom touches with the airbrushes and whatnot. So let's see how far we can get today. EVGA is proud to announce their new X570 for the Win motherboard. With multiple RGB and ARGB LED headers, fin stack heatsink, switchable BIOS, and 15-phase digital VRM, the X570 for the Win motherboard brings EVGA's legendary build quality and performance to Ryzen processors. To learn more and see the full feature set, follow the link in the description below. So you can see I started adding some of the greebles and stuff on here. This is just a heatsink actually I took off of another motherboard. This right here is also a heatsink I took off a motherboard. In fact, those motherboards are sitting right here. So this is why I like keeping around old stuff that is either damaged or doesn't work anymore, because I can take the heat sinks and stuff off and use them in these builds. In fact, I think I'm gonna end up using this one as well. I might try and find a big flat one. I might even cut some pieces off of these motherboards like I've talked about in the past to make them just fill in the space nicely, if you will. So I'm gonna take this top piece off, which really likes to get stuck because the paint is built up. Oh, wait, I can't take it off because this is on. Wow, Jay, you're stupid. So this panel's really getting heavy now with all this stuff on it. But anyway, the top piece, the exhaust fan is, in my opinion, the most important piece of this build, not just for aesthetics, but also for functionality and cooling on this guy. So this 3D printed piece right here, we talked about trying to make this out of styrene, but obviously 3D printing is much better for that. So AJ, or Zeroscape, if you follow my live stream, he 3D printed this for us, and you can see that's a really good fit. In fact, let me put the wire back down through here so you guys can see. So what I need to do right now is I need to make a template to find where I need to actually mount this thing. I'm not sure what the infill is like on here, if it's hollow or not, and how I'm gonna mount this down, but I'm gonna try. But it gave us a few different sizes. I think the 100% in ABS is perfect. Look at that. So that's not the fan that's gonna be on top. It's gonna be an RGB fan, but as you can see, that just looks amazing. He also provided me some other 3D printed stuff. Let me get it. So he also had these Rebel insignias made for me. This is actually the rustable. As you can see, it's already rusting. I don't think I'm gonna use the rustable one though, because I'm not planning on doing rust effects on this ship. But you can see that it's got the, I think, iron infused or whatever the metal is that's in there to allow it to naturally rust. And that's actually what's happening to this all on its own, as you can see. But I can use these like up here, right? Look at that. So if I were to mount that in the center, so you can see now we've got, and I can paint that red, right? The logo is red. Or I could just do this one, paint this one red, put down the pre-cut sticker, and then I don't have to worry about trying to mask it off. And then we get the Rebel insignia. So it's little things like this that really start to sell the theme, if you will. Something else I worked on off camera is, this is one of those vents I showed you. The graphics card side is this side right here. So I'm gonna be mounting this on here. I want to cut out holes in here a little bit to make airflow a little bit better. But this is gonna blow directly on the graphics card. And I was just fortunate enough to where the size of these is just perfect in terms of fitting two 120 millimeter fans right in between these two fins, if you will. I guess that's what we'll call them. We'll call them fins. And come on, stupid wires. The wires are all in my way. So then those will be blowing directly on the graphics card, and they're gonna be RGB. And I still need to like put a fan grill on here of some sort, or have one 3D printed that's very Star Wars themed. That way I can, you know, not my fingers get caught in there or whatever. But these will be glowing like light blue, like engine thruster type of color. I might end up painting this black because I think it being a black grill would be kind of neat. And this is just primer, so I can still paint whatever color I want over it. So we got some cutting we gotta do today. We got some painting we gotta do. I wanna add some more greebles on here. It's gonna be a fun day. Fortunately, he gave me 2 of these, right? So he gave us, this one's really heavy. It's a whole different material, but I believe this is 105%. Because you have to account for like material shrinkage and such. The fan mounts down, obviously. And then if I don't get this lined up perfectly, like if it's not where it needs to be, then those holes for the fan won't line up. So I need to come up with some sort of a template to line all this up. And my theory on how I can do this is I can tape all of this down. And I can be like, boom, right? So now I can see where the holes are and where the edges of that are. And I'm not using this fan, by the way. I will be using an RGB fan for obvious reasons. So I can make myself a template here that I will then be able to transfer over to the top here, line up the holes for the fans, and then I'll see exactly where I can drill. With my ideas, I never know if they're ever gonna actually work. I feel like I just get lucky half the time. Okay, all the time, but whatever. I now have to also mark my safe area. By safe area, I mean the area at which I have to work. Now I know that within these corners, that is what I have to work with. So I've got to make a mounting point like there, and one like there, and one like there, and one like there. So I have kind of a backup plan if I ruin this, like if the screws won't hold or the screws crack it out. I want to use the self-threading like fan screws, but I'm going to drill the holes to be roughly the right size for them to thread without cutting too much, because then I believe it'll break it. But then if all else fails, I'll just end up like hot gluing pegs in there. Let the pegs come down through, hot glue the backside, clip them flat, and then they'll just be held on that way. I don't want to use 2-sided tape on this. I don't want to use hot glue on the surface because it will just be ugly. But I believe that this method will work. So I think I'm actually going to use smaller screws first. Work my way up to those if I need to, right? Because you can make a hole bigger. You can't really make it smaller. Nice thing is, on the screws that I want to use, the head is a lot bigger than the threads. So obviously, if I'm not perfect on the location of the holes when I transfer it to here, then at least there's some room to move it a little bit. But I can't move it too much because, like I said, these holes for the fans that are here still have to line up. There we go. That actually threads in nicely. But it just, like, it doesn't even bottom out. It just immediately starts, like, it's not stripping, but it's churning. So let me just try this and see if it'll hold on nicely. That's all I need to do is hold on. It's not like it's a load-bearing piece of any sort. If I've got to do some like small amounts of thin 2-sided tape on the bottom, I will. I just don't like taping to paint. But you can see now what I meant about making my template here. Now I don't need this anymore. Oh, the edge of that one barely made it there. I think I need to step these screw holes slightly because I don't want them threading into the case, I want them threading into the plastic piece. And I think if I put, like when I go to thread it on, if I just put like a few drops of like glue in there, then the threads catch. That should be enough to ever keep them from backing out. I don't believe they should ever back out. All right, so that's mounted on there now. Had a little mishap with the drill. As you see, I went down too far and it splintered that out right there. So I'm trying to decide maybe if I want to make this some damage or something, but I could also just super glue it down and file it or sand it and it'd be fine. Don't think we have any super glue here though. So I'm gonna rough this up a tiny bit, put our coat of primer on there. Just make sure my fan still lines up. Only 3 of my fan screws ever lined up anyway, because I screwed it up. It's intaking instead of exhausting. Just like this video is exhausting. Let's check it out. Hey! Nice. This is what's gonna allow me to run, the high-speed hardware in there without any sort of cooling issues. So I'm gonna get the fan out, I'm gonna put a coat of paint on this, and it's funny because you'll see just how quickly, once you have a uniform color, how nice and neat it all really starts to look when it comes together. All right, so while that is drying, I'm going to grab another heat sink off of here. I don't think I'm gonna put it on that side. This is the new, so remember I said in part 1 that I needed another one of these vent pieces to get rid of the glass. NZXT sent me one that I think I had a defect somewhere, which is why they didn't use it, which is perfectly fine because I'm gonna tear it up anyway. I had to grind off the nubbins at the top, like I said, because they don't line up with the holes. I digress. I'm trying to decide, like I wanna cut a big hole in it so that I can mount this to it. So remember, I've got a mount on here that's gonna blow directly on the graphics cards. And some of these holes do line up, which is how I'm gonna mount it, which is the awesome part. I'm not sure yet how I'm gonna mount the fans though. Even if I just left these holes on there and let these blow directly into it, I'm worried that it will make a lot of noise. In fact, I feel like right now I should set up a power supply, turn on these fans and see how they sound blowing onto the holes like that. I'm fairly convinced that they'll make a pretty bad turbulent sound. Oh, that's not too bad. What's the airflow like? Once again, not too bad. I feel a lot of air splashing out though, which makes sense because there's a bit of resistance there. Get it? Resistance? Yeah, there's actually a really decent amount of air coming in. And it's all cool air. Yay, I feel a gentle breeze. Okay, I think this will be fine actually. One of the suggestions that somebody gave me that was really good, by the way, was, hey Jay, you should, you have this, exit wound, which is clearly something blasted out, right? That's the way the energy went. You should make an entry hole on the other side. Now the entry hole would obviously be a lot smaller because the energy coming out, expands, and so that's why the hole's bigger. And I don't technically need this to be all airflow because we've got 3 sides that are full airflow at this point now with that big old hole and stuff there. So I'm starting to feel like I could just use this as a flat surface now to be able to paint on and do some greeble work. And I feel like I would much rather just use, instead of the metal on this side, I almost feel like I would just much rather use the styrene. So let's give that a shot. So this was a test that I had done on the styrene to see how well it melts. Remember, this damage right here is half metal. This is all metal on this side. And this is all styrene on this side, which is much more melted and stuff. So I feel like I'd have to use a thicker piece for this. So if we have a damage impact there, maybe even a second one, like up here. We have a small impact mark and a small one. And then we could still have it blowing out the middle right there. I mean, it doesn't have to line up. So now that I know where I've got room to work on there, let's move this out of the way, because if I do any grinding, I don't want any metal bits in there. That's what I love about working with this stuff. You don't even need power tools with this. This is a drywall scoring knife. It works perfectly. I'm not supposed to go backwards like this, but it works. Ah. Oh, still the plastic on it this way. Nice, but dang it, I feel like I should have gone wider. Okay, we'll save that piece. Because I want to rivet into the, I don't want to rivet into the holes, because I don't know if it shows up on camera, those dip down, they're not flush. So if I rivet there, it'll bow the piece in like that and it'll look dumb. So, I just didn't think about that. I always wanted to work with styrene. Watching Adam Savage's, one-day builds, he uses styrene all the time. That should be better, yeah. That overlaps the edges nicely. Now, remember, I talked about those seams and stuff. Whoops, that look really good. So what I'm gonna do on this one now, I'll leave that there. It didn't turn out as good on the other piece as I wanted. Where is it? Oh, it's still on here. This one didn't turn out as well as I would have hoped. Geez, that's on there tight. Mostly because of the fact that I did it after the fact, right? See, that one's crooked, but I'm justifying how that's all, I melted that on purpose to look like damage that came from the explosion. I think it's okay if panels are a little crooked on this side. I think it's fair to say some metal shifted. If I decide the shape, I'll show you a neat way to do this. So if I was to take this, be like, boom, right? So when I cut these and I break them apart and I just do a slight gap, then you'll have that seam that I wanted, but they'll line up and mate up perfectly because of the fact that they are from the same piece, if that makes sense. Ha! So now, see what I mean? Now even if I put them back together, exactly as they were, I've got that seam there. But I think a little gap would look good like that. See what I mean? Know what I mean? See what I mean? Know what I mean? So that's the other thing too, is if I just sort of round this edge. Is the plastic still on this side? Yeah, I was like, why is it sanding weird? KJ. Noob. So here's what we'll do. We'll cut so that we're not wasting your guys' time. I'm gonna get this all mounted up, riveted in, and then painted. Then we'll start putting greebles on it. All right, so there's the way that the panels look like on there. You can see the holes that I pre-made in there so I can do the damage effect of it going in. So I'm gonna start by drilling a hole, a small hole, and then I'm going to melt said hole to look something sort of like we had on the other system there. So I'm gonna sort of just lightly sort of sketch how I want this one here, like kind of a teardrop shape, because I want it to kind of look like it came in at an angle, right? So what I like to do for that, start by drilling my hole, and then turning. So this is just a step bit, so of course it's really rough, but you can see now it's coming in at an angle like that. So same thing with this one here, drill my hole. And then put an angle. And that's all I need to get it. So what I'm gonna do now is get my torch. Now, I can just sort of start shaping my hole there inward. That's fine. It actually looks like it just got shot, doesn't it? Some damage on here. That looks cool, because once it's all painted, obviously. Push that plastic down with my fingers. My fingers are impervious to heat. I don't remember what the condition is called. And no, it's not poor circulation. There. That's a cool looking hole right there.
Oh, that looks sick. Dude, that's freaking cool.
Yeah. How do you like the way those panels turned out?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
way better on this side. Yeah.
And then you see the grading through the background?
Mm-hmm. So I've got this motherboard. It's X299 socket. And I kind of want to use the socket. So let me see if I can get this off. If not, at the very least, the retention plate on the back would make a neat looking greeble. That's cool. I like it. Could be there, could go there. Could go there, could go there. Actually, I think that fits like right there pretty nicely. We could always do something with those. Take the little guys. At least fit in the middle. Like that. Okay, so while this piece is drying over here, and I know the sunlight's kind of screwing with the camera and stuff, but you can see with the first coat of primer on there, once all the colors come together, I just took a heat sink off of a stock AMD cooler. That's another heat sink off of a power supply. You can, or a motherboard. You can see the impact damage now. It looks really cool. And you gotta remember, this is all just blank canvas. I'll be airbrushing a lot of details on here, resistance logos. This right here is like glancing blows that didn't make it through, and I'll be playing with that some more. But I need to see it all uniform in one color before I can start to really kind of see how I want the overall, thing to look in my head on canvas. But I have another idea I thought of the other day that I kind of want to do, and that's the fact that this hole right here that's blown out the side of our quote-unquote ship should have some stuff poking through. So I'm going to use this one here. It's a Cooler Master V650. I've lost the modular cables for it. It's really kind of got no purpose for us anymore. 80 plus gold. It's not a bad power supply, but unfortunately something's got to be sacrificed for this, and I don't have any bad power supplies or anything. But I want some wires sort of poking through this hole, And I want them to be ketchup and mustard. I want the colors for this. I don't want an all black one. But we need them to look damaged, right? So, different lengths on some of these. When I do airbrush, light airbrushing of black on these to dirty them up and to make them look like they were in the explosion, right? Because there would be soot or something. It's funny, a lot of people ask me all the time, how do you know these techniques? Like, I just sort of come up with it. It's not like these techniques are anything special. You can see damage is easy. It's the super clean builds people do that are like, oh my goodness, like in the mods and stuff. So one of the nice things about the zip ties, they're gonna give me something to sort of glue onto here. I can't tell you guys how many times I've glued my fingers to stuff because of that thing I was talking about earlier with heat. Oh, see what I was saying? I don't even feel it. I don't even.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
It's just super glued, or hot glued.
Hey!
No, hold on, if we go like that.
God dang it!
If you can't tell, I sort of not just explode computers like this, but the workspace too. I'm not exactly what you would call a tidy worker when it comes to this sort of stuff. Nice. So all 4 sides are now back on. So you can see here our explosive damage hole, which I'll still do some work on these wires, but this is just an early. The idea is there was some wire conduit there and it blew up, right? Our impact holes here. Some glancing blows that I have a lot of work to do on. Random heatsink thing and greebles, right? Our fan is on top and mounted. Just so cool looking on top. Now what we gotta do is on the graphics card side, which side? This side, right here. And we're not gonna do this today because it's time to start wrapping this up. We'll be mounting this and the intake fans, obviously. I just wanna hold it up there now, so I can start to sort of see how it's coming together here. Oh, that's gonna be so cool. Like, I don't even need to do this on this side. I just want to. I'll have to figure out something to do on this side too. But anyway, as you can see, the Star Wars build is coming together. We're getting awfully close to doing my favorite part, which is the airbrushing techniques. So, there you go. Like I said, I can't remember your name, who said this. I apologize. You know who you are though. Someone had suggested making some impact holes on this side. I mean, I think they had imagined something a lot bigger, but I already have a giant explosion on this side, so I don't want to do it again on this side. But there's our impacts, and I cannot wait to see how this turns out when we start painting it all and getting it all wired up. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the build series for the custom case stuff. We'll see you in the next one.